Hey guys, what's up? This is Bret. Welcome to this week's Friday on the Turntable. I have another special edition where I'm going to be ranking the albums of The Doors. Before I get started, I would like to just send a huge shout out to my friend here in the vinyl community, Rob from Boston. Thank you so much for the beautiful feature that you did on my band Audra and on our album Everything Changes. Thank you so much. I've been getting a lot of emails and stuff from people that said, oh, I didn't know you were a musician, I didn't know you had a band and had albums out and stuff, so I thought I'd just give a little quick, just a little bit of a background of myself, because a lot of you guys are new to my channel, so you're not privy to that information. Anyways, yes, I have a band. The name of my band is called Audra. You can see a poster in the background there. Our first album came out actually in 2000, which was self-titled. And it was on the Project record label, an independent record label out of New York City. Artists like Steve Roach is on there, Peter Ulrich, who was in Dead Can Dance, our friends Lycia. And our second album came out in 2002, also on that label, Going to the Theater. And then in 2009, we self-released our third album, which is Everything Changes. This was recorded in Tempe, Arizona at Uranus Studios, which is owned by Robin Wilson, who is the singer of the band, the Gin Blossoms, and he actually sings backing vocals on 2 tracks. It was produced by a guy named Rob Valier, who is a Grammy-nominated producer, worked with lots and lots of different artists. Wailing Souls, I think, is where he was nominated for a Grammy. But really cool guy. That album turned out spectacular, and so I just want to let you guys know that these Going to the Theater and Everything Changes are available directly through our Bandcamp page. I'm going to post a link down in the description box. Our first CD was sold out and out of print, so that one is not available new. But we do have downloads for that as well in FLAC and all types of formats on that Bandcamp site. So would really appreciate any support that you guys may have towards my musical projects. Really appreciate that. So anyways, thanks again, Rob, for that. I'll post a link to Rob's channel below as well. Super great guy. So ranking the Doors. What sparked this? Obviously, it was the death of Ray Manzarek on Monday, Doors keyboard player, founding member. The Doors have been a really big part of my life. One of the first bands I discovered as a teenager. As I was talking about it in my Tapeworm episode the other day, the Doors was a band that my brother, I remember getting a cassette tape from the mall, and we used to listen to it over and over again back in the mid-'80s. I was always really drawn to their dark sounds. Just a really unique, they blended such almost like psychedelic with show tunes, with blues, and just dark poetic content, and I was really drawn to that as a kid, and still am, and still play my Doors records. And I figured what better way to do a tribute here in the vinyl community than go over for the fans my ranking for the albums, as well as though I don't always assume everyone out there is familiar with all the bands that I feature on my channel here. So I figure if you were unfamiliar with the Doors, this will be a good place for you guys to kind of dip in. So the Doors had 6 albums. I'm not going to include the albums post Jim Morrison, so it's just going to be the 6 albums they released as the 4-piece lineup that we all know and love, although the band did record 2 albums after he passed away in 1971. So I'm just going to focus on those first 6 albums. Now you also have to keep in perspective that that era of the Doors was only from the recording output was from 1967 to 71. So in only just basically 4 or 5 years, man, they released such a killer catalog, just a great output, and things like that really get forgotten. Bands nowadays take a long period of time between albums, sometimes 4 or 5 years even, and it's amazing when you think that these 6 albums were done in the time span of 4 to 5 years. So anyways, let's get started here. I'm going to put it in at number 6. This was the Doors' 4th album, The Soft Parade. Now, I should also preface it by saying, because something ranks at the bottom does not mean does not indicate that it's a bad album. I love all of these albums. It's just we're ranking them and we're putting them in an order of least to most favorite one. So the Doors, this was a kind of a departure from their first three albums. Their first three albums almost signify a chapter in their sound. And then this one departed. It had a lot more strings and orchestral instruments, and it was a lot different. And as I always do in these rankings, I'm going to tell you my 3 favorite songs, and I'm going to just leave it at 3. I don't want to get ridiculous and just name the whole albums. So 3 is where I capped myself off at. Oh, first off, this came out on July 18th, 1969, their 4th album. So my 3 favorite tracks: Wild Child, Touch Me, and Wishful Sinful. The title track on this one, which is the closing song, is just this sprawling 8 minutes and 40 seconds. It's just this, it segues from musical movement to musical movement. 1 minute it's like really dark, and then it's into this show-tuney, upbeat, Brady Bunch-esque little snippet, and then it moves into something else. So a really interesting track is that title. So that's in at number 6 for me. Number 5, this was the Doors' last album with Jim Morrison, and this is LA Woman. This was also the first album of theirs that was not produced by Paul Rothchild. He produced all 5, and then he gave up, and Bruce Botnick, who engineered all their other albums, took over the production on this one. And the Doors recorded this actually in their rehearsal studio in Hollywood. So this one came out, let me get you the exact date here. I love putting things in the context with years, but this was April 19th, 1971. Right after it was released, 3 months later, Jim Morrison passed away, so they never toured for this album. My 3 favorite tracks on this one are definitely LA Woman, Riders on the Storm, and Love Her Madly. Riders on the Storm, one of those songs that whenever it's raining, it's probably the most popular song that gets played on the radio whenever it's raining wherever you're at, just because of the sound effects in that one, and it just fits that mood just greatly. The Doors are really known for having, in my opinion, just such killer closing tracks, and usually they're pretty epic in length, usually over 5 minutes. There's a couple exceptions, and Riders on the Storm is the closer on this one, and that is just a phenomenal track. Okay, coming in at number 4 is Morrison Hotel. This one followed The Soft Parade, so it was their 5th album. And this one came out in actually on February 1st, 1970. Great artwork on this one from downtown LA there. And excellent album. And Indian Summer is one of my 3 favorite tracks from this one. And a little tidbit of information on Indian Summer is that track was actually recorded for the Doors' first album in 1966, and it was an outtake, and it was left off, and it didn't surface until their 5th album actually, and it's probably my favorite song from this record. Other couple ones are Waiting for the Sun, which coincidentally is the name of their 3rd album and was recorded for their 3rd album, but was included on this one as well. So there were some earlier tracks that were put to use on later recordings, which is kind of a common thing in the music industry. Bands go in and they record more songs than are needed for an album, and those tracks either get used for B-sides or they get left over and don't fit with the theme and get pushed later on and re-recorded, or just released as they were in their form when they were recorded. So, and then my 3rd favorite one on this one is I put down Blue Sunday, which is a very Sinatra-esque vocal performance by Jim Morrison, and just really a cool track. It segues kind of from Peace Frog, and then Blue Sunday starts up right after that. So anyways, that's Morrison Hotel, and that's coming in at number 4. Love this album. This is number 3 for me, and it was also the Doors' 3rd album. And this is Waiting for the Sun. I remember having this and listening to this so much when I was a teenager. Just really, really, really dig this album, Waiting for the Sun. Like I said, it was their third album, and this one came out on July 11th, 1968. My three favorite tracks on this one are Love Street, which is perhaps one of my absolute favorite Doors track, Not to Touch the Earth, which is a snippet of a big, epically long piece of work that the band recorded for the album, and it was called Celebration of the Lizard, and you can actually, inside of the gatefold, they have the entire poem inside there. And if you have if you seek out the version of that actually recent years they released 40th anniversary mixes on CD of all of the albums, and the one for Waiting for the Sun actually includes a studio version of that 17+ minute long version of Celebration of the Lizard, and Not to Touch the Earth was a snippet of that longer piece of work. Other favorite ones on this one are 5 to 1, the closing track. Like I was talking about earlier, just a killer closing track on that one. And I felt it necessary to kind of point out a couple things about the Doors that kind of is a bit of a misconception. The Doors are known as not having a bass player, and while that's true for their live performances, every single album featured a bass guitar player that played. You know, it's notable, and it's, you know, that Ray Manzarek played bass parts with his left hand on the Fender Rhodes and played bass lines live, played them on the recordings, but they also doubled a lot of the bass parts with bass players, and I felt it was significant to kind of point out some of those bass players because they're always credited on the album, and a lot of those were pretty big name players. Jerry Sheff, who actually played in Elvis's band, was one of the main bass players. Lonnie Mack, who was a blues guitar player, played bass. A guy named Harvey Brooks, who played with Bob Dylan, Miles Davis, Richie Havens, Doug Luban, who played on a lot of the Doors recordings, and also a guy named Larry Knechtel. So they're all great bass players. So if you listen to those albums, you really can feel that bass being doubled. And me being a bass player as my primary instrument, it's just they had such great bass lines going, and really interesting. And I thought I'd point that out for you guys that maybe perhaps aren't aware of that. So that's number 3 for me with Waiting for the Sun. Okay, on to number 2. This is their second album. This is Strange Days, and what a great album it is. I think it's the only one that actually doesn't feature a picture of the band on the cover, but if you look, they are slyly put in there on the poster there along with the album title. So this was their second album, and this came out, I'll just give you the date on that one. This came out actually 9 months after their first album. So their first 2 albums both came out in 1967, and this one was September 25th of 1967. You know, it's really a toss-up. This album and their first one are really, I think, just such powerful albums and kind of connected in a lot of ways because they're very similar to one another. They both end with this huge, intense, 10-minute plus song, and When the Music's Over is the one for that one. That's 11 minutes long, and their first album ends with The End, which is 11.5 minutes, and both of them share a lot of things in common. Just really excellent tracks. Strange Days' favorite tracks, the opening track, Strange Days, is incredible. People Are Strange, just great, and When the Music's Over. Those are my 3 favorites from that one. So that's Strange Days. So obviously, if you guys are familiar with the Doors catalog, you know the only one that I haven't shown is their debut album. This is number 1 for me. It's the first one I ever got as a kid when I got a complete studio album, and it was really blown away by the darkness of this album. This came out on January 4th of 1967. It was recorded in barely 1 week's time. So the band was tight from playing the club, Sunset Strip, just went in, knocked the album out super fast, and sometimes that's all it takes. You know, it's very spontaneous, and it shows the songwriting is just top notch. My 3 favorite tracks on this one, The Crystal Ship, man. What a track The Crystal Ship is, just beautiful. The End, just hugely influential track, and has a lot in common with for me, with a song like 3 Days by Jane's Addiction, that's just has various movements and just incredible. And Light My Fire, you can't deny the quality of that track. Just a huge radio song, great track, and really showcases Ray Manzarek's keyboard playing, which is who inspired this whole posting for today. So that is their that's number one for me. I'd like to also point out that there are a lot of songs that I didn't discuss that are really notable. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna post a link to this article I'm writing about these the Doors albums that I'm ranking, and I'm also going to post a link to a Spotify playlist that I've created where I'm going to it's going to be 10 excellent lesser known Doors tracks, so you guys can listen to that. So be sure to check that out, and there will be a link for that in the description box. So thank you guys so much for watching, and like I said, I'm going to have a link also for my band Audra's Bandcamp page. I also have 2 solo singles that I've released, which are also available on there, as well as some other merchandise. So thanks again, guys, for watching. Rest in peace, Ray Manzarek. Yeah, guys, thanks.